Hey guys, welcome back to We Met at Acme. I am so excited for today's episode, which is good things. No, sorry, good things, but good relationships happen to those who wait, part 4. Or maybe it should be great relationships. I don't know, guys. My brain is so jumbled right now because I'm pretty sure by this time I would have announced it on my Instagram, but I'm pregnant. And I brought a little picture of the baby for you. So tiny. You can see it over on YouTube. And it's crazy. I'm so grateful. Obviously, it has been a journey to get here. We got very lucky with our second transfer after my ectopic pregnancy, and we're having a baby. And I'm pretty sure this baby will also be a Capricorn. So I am in for a crazy life, let me tell you. But I'm so excited. If you've noticed, I've been a little slower to, share like stories and just up. I haven't been on my game recently when it comes to social media, obviously, when it comes to working out, when it comes to anything, because I have never experienced anything like this. Being pregnant with a toddler, it's the craziest thing ever. Like, there's tired, and then there's being pregnant tired, and then there's pregnant with a toddler tired, and that is just the craziest next level that there has ever been of tired. And so if it were up to me, I'd be in bed all day watching Love Island, which I just started. But unfortunately, it's not. I'm a mommy, as they say on Love Island, a mamacita, and I have to get my ass up and be a mom and work so that I can afford to have 2 kids. So it's crazy. I'm very happy, very excited, very grateful. And yeah, it's so funny, the difference. Like, the first time I was pregnant, I feel like I did a whole episode dedicated to it. Now I'm just like, yeah, by the way. But it really does just become like a part of your everyday existence when you already, have a baby. It's just like, okay, obviously I'm excited. I'm so excited, and I just can't wait. I have some things that I haven't shared yet on social, like the gender of the baby, like telling our family and friends that I was pregnant or that I'm pregnant. Maybe I will have shared that by this time. I have no idea, but I'm very excited. I do feel like there, oh, also, I have to say, I, as someone who struggles with fertility, I very much understand what it feels like to have someone that you follow for one reason become pregnant and make that their entire personality. So, like with the mom stuff, I'm going to do my best not to do that. And that's why I created We Met at Baby. And so I will continue to keep things as separate as possible. It is crazy. How many weeks by the time this comes out? 13 weeks, 13 and a half. And I'm telling you, I'm showing already. Your body has such muscle memory, and it just goes right back so much faster. So it is not going to be a hot girl summer. No, it is not. I'm also really excited because my amazing partner in our events, Kayla, she moved to Miami, which obviously makes me so sad, but she set me up with a friend of hers, this great girl named Zoe, who's going to help us do our events. So we're going to have some great events this summer. Pretty soon, actually. I think we're going to try for one July 1st and one at the end of July. So if you're in New York City, stay tuned for the announcement of those events. We are going to do actions, kind of sports oriented events. And I think you're going to love it. And I think we should just get right into it with your amazing stories that I cannot wait to read. But let me just take a sip of Diet Coke. Okay. Hi, Lindsay. Here's my story. I hope to have it featured on your next episode. By the way, let me just preface this by saying if this is the first time you're tuning into one of these episodes, this is a part 4. So there are 4 total episodes. There's 3 more before this that I think that you should definitely check out if you haven't yet, about how, this is the title. The best relationships come to those who wait. See, the pregnancy and mom brain at the same time is tough, but the best relationships do come to those who wait. And I'm so excited to read the news stories, some stories of people who have been waiting to be one of these stories. And, 4 episodes later, now they are. Hi, Lindsay. Here's my story. I ended a 7-year relationship at the age of 29, and I moved to a small town in Rhode Island. I ended up meeting a local boy pretty shortly after and got involved in an extremely toxic 1.5-year-long relationship. So here I was, 31, about to turn 32, single again and unsure of what my future held. I dreaded getting back on the apps because in the area I live, the pickings are slim. But I re-downloaded Hinge and began swiping. A few months later, I came across a profile of a man who had some funny answers to prompts. So I just responded to one of them saying, ha 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 ha, not thinking anything of him other than that. He replied back saying, hi, are you free next Thursday? I would love to take you out on a date. How about? And mentioned an exact bar and time to meet at. Even though he didn't jump off the screen from his app pictures, I figured, hey, this man came to me with an exact plan and the bar was so low. So I decided, why not go on the date? On our first date, we had great banter. Conversation was flowing. And at the end of the date, he said that he really enjoyed his time and would like to see me again. My first thought when I saw him was, wow, he's much cuter in person. So ladies, don't take those app photos too seriously. I always say that. Like, men don't have photo shoots, This is all they got. From the very beginning, he was so thoughtful about planning fun dates and was always very honest and forthcoming about how he was feeling. After our 4th date, he brought me flowers and left me a handwritten note. It made me cry solely from the fact that I had just endured such a toxic relationship and truly could not believe that a man would go out of his way to do such nice and thoughtful gestures. I joke that I manifested him, but I really think I did. I was so sure that I was deserving of someone amazing, and he checked off every box that I could have ever dreamed of and then some. Fast forward to not even a full year later, we are engaged and expecting our first baby in the fall. Oh my God, chills. We are having a small courthouse wedding beforehand and hope to have a larger celebration when our baby turns 1. It may seem crazy fast to some people, but I think when you reach a certain age, you realize relatively quickly if your morals, values, and lives align in the way that you always dreamed of. The overall message is do not settle, and really your whole world can change in not even a year's time. Know your worth, and I promise you, you can have all you've ever dreamed of and then some. I love this so much. I'm so happy this is the one kicking us off. It reminds me a little bit of my friend Elizabeth, who came on the pod recently and shared her story of finding, meeting, and getting engaged to her partner within a year. And it's so true. It is so, so true. When you're 30 plus, you have done so much self-work. You know yourself. You know when the person comes along is the person. You've been through the toxic relationships. You've had all of the bad. So you know how to recognize the good. And I think that's so important. And I think I love that and how that's the theme of these episodes. Okay, moving on to the next. I love your podcast and I'm so excited to be writing this. I'm a 32-year-old female and have been divorced for over 5 years with a 6-year-old son. I've been single that whole time, pretty discouraged with all the attempts I made at dating. Toward the end of last year, I started doing a lot more inner work and got rid of the idea that finding love was too good to be true and started telling myself and believing it that there are so many great men left in the world. We're going to talk about that because that's a real thing. On the full moon in January, I did a little full moon ritual for the first time. One of my manifestations was I let go of scarcity mindset in dating. I am so worthy of a loving partner, and he is absolutely out there. We will find each other so soon. I can feel it. 4 days later, I matched with this guy on Bumble. I wasn't sure of him. His profile wasn't super impressive, and he wasn't my type at all. But I really liked how he answered a prompt I had. The prompt was, think of the happiest couple you know. What do you admire about their relationship? This was a golden prompt, by the way. I got so many great answers from men who were actually looking for a relationship too. We met a week later and I didn't know it at first, but I found my person. He's genuinely the most loving, romantic, unselfish, compassionate man I've ever met and loves every part of me, and I love him. I now want to tell everybody to never, ever settle because you are someone's dream girl. I'm actually writing this next to him and my son as he is teaching my son a new video game. Their bond makes my heart melt every single day, and I can confidently say meeting my boyfriend has healed me in ways I didn't know were possible. It never worked out with anyone else because him and I just fit together so perfectly. And it wouldn't be this good if we met earlier in life because we individually did so much self-work. We realized that each of us are givers in a relationship, and we were both with takers in our past. Once we could acknowledge what we truly deserved, we fell into place. Our love is so generous, and I feel so lucky to be with a man who is thrilled to treat me like a queen. The other day, he woke up before me, and when I got up, I asked if he was watching TV. He said, "No, I'm just writing you a love poem," with such sincerity, and I melted. I'm living my dream with the love of my life, and I'm so happy I waited for him. Oh my God, that's so perfect. I'm obsessed with that. And we've only read 2 so far, and there's already a theme here. 2 themes. The first theme is that a man's dating profile is not going to be an actual representation of this man. And there's a few reasons for that. The first reason is that, again, as I mentioned before, men don't do photo shoots. So they're not going to have amazing, amazing photos the way that women might. A man's photo, like his best photo is from his friend's wedding, and his friend's wife sent him the photo after the wedding, and that's like his number 1 photo, okay? Look for humor because that is genuine and men can show humor, right? But even if the prompts are not that interesting, give men a chance, because most of the time when I was on dating apps, men looked better in person. They really did. Men are not editing their photos. They're not, for the most part, they're not catfishing, right? If you can find some photos where they're not wearing a hat or they're not wearing sunglasses, they're not catfishing. And so truly give these men a chance. I'm not saying that you have to settle by any means, right? But just give men an opportunity in person if you're not 100% sure about their dating profile. Unless you're definitely sure that the profile is horrible and the guy is not for you, obviously, you know. And then the other part is this woman, what I love, part of what she said that I am obsessed with is that she let go of scarcity mindset in dating. And she said that she is so worthy of a loving partner and he's absolutely out there. Right before I met Steven, I was saying the same manifestations and affirmations. And it is a little different because I was in a relationship that was coming to an end. But even in that relationship, I was saying, you know, I deserve better than what I'm getting right now. And there must be someone out there who is going to bring to the table what I am bringing to the table. And it's not even necessarily a confidence thing. It's just, the world is huge. And if you're in a bad relationship, or if you've just been single for a while and you're just feeling shit out of luck, you do have to get out of that mindset that's dragging you down and realize that there is an amazing person for you out there. And I really do believe this. And so I think this woman's story is a perfect example of that. And I'm so happy that she included that in her story. Okay, moving on. Just a few years ago, I almost left New York and moved to Texas. I was 29 years old and still hadn't found my person. And I thought this city might be the problem. A few months later, COVID struck us all. I had started a fling with a casual friend a few weeks before. But the drama of a global pandemic and the odd romance of quarantine made it feel like something more than it was. Leaving the city to be with family without him only made things more serious somehow. Though I had reservations and thought we were incompatible in many ways, we continued to be together as if by inertia, kept in a bubble by the isolation of the pandemic, all through 2020 and 2021. By the beginning of 2022, as normalcy started to return, I became antsy. I told him it was time to get engaged or move on. I should have read between the lines when he reluctantly agreed to buy a ring while telling me how silly he thought they were. When he recused himself from wedding planning, while my mother and I forged full steam ahead to plan a Florida wedding for 125 people in 6 months. But I didn't. I just kept going. I was pot committed. The week of the wedding came, and so did Hurricane Ian. The airport closed, vendors canceled, and even the priest said he couldn't get to the church. Even after the storm passed, my fiance didn't come down to Florida with me in the aftermath. I should have known then, but I still began working on rescheduling our wedding. Fast forward another 3 months, just before Christmas 2022. My father was visiting me, and over lunch together, I broke down, relaying the latest argument with my fiance. He was growing more and more stubborn whenever I brought up our issues. As a result, I was becoming sullen and distant. My father said something that changed the course of my life. You don't have to get married. You should only do it if you really want to. Immediately, I knew I didn't want to. I just hadn't considered that I could still get off this train. It was a painful breakup, but I never doubted it was the right thing. The scary part came next. I was now 32 and single, and I came with a new disclaimer. I was recently engaged, but I ended it. I was also inappropriately happy for a person who had just called off her wedding, or at least I was afraid that's how other people would see it. I knew I'd made the right decision, and I was ready to be happy again. I started dating about a month after the breakup. I did my best to enjoy meeting new people and not let the disappointments get me down. I made plans with girlfriends. I made time for myself. I threw a banger of a housewarming party. I didn't wallow. I lived my life. And in April of 2023, 1 week after my postponed wedding would have taken place, I met the love of my life, the man who is now my husband and the father of my 2 children. From the moment we met, officially at a party, technically through mutual friends and the strange magic of Facebook, we both knew this was it. By the way, April 2023 and you already have 2 kids? Good for you, queen. He was 39, I was 32. Both of us had just ended a serious relationship in a less than ideal way. Both of us were looking for marriage and kids, and neither of us had given up on love. We dated for 4 wonderful months and talked seriously about what we both wanted. We met each other's families, and in July, accidentally on purpose, we conceived a child. Okay, well, there we go. He proposed the moment I showed him the positive pregnancy test a few weeks later. And then he proposed again on the top of a mountain in Colorado, on his knee with a gorgeous diamond ring. In November 2023, just 3 months after getting engaged, we got married. We celebrated our birthdays together for the first time. We spent our first Christmas with my family, and our first daughter was born 1 year to the day that we first met. When I told that to the doctors and nurses in the delivery room when she was born, they thought I was having them on. In just 1 more week, we'll be having our second daughter, and I can't believe how lucky I am. I knew it was possible to meet the right person at 32, but I didn't realize how quickly it could happen when you find someone who wants the same things you do. The great thing about dating over 30 is when you know you know. My only regret is that somehow I didn't meet my husband sooner, especially since we had so many mutual friends. He knew who I was for years, but he heard I was already dating someone, proving that every bad relationship comes with an opportunity cost. The thing I'll never regret, ending that bad relationship. Even at 32, even with a ring, even though I had to return all the wedding gifts and explain to my entire circle of friends and family that I ended the engagement. That was the best decision of my life. So sweet, so many similar themes. It's crazy. I love this. Like it really is true. When you know, and it does move fast, and it should move fast. And I think what I took away from that one was her dad sitting her down. And it's really hard for a parent to get involved or not involved with our love lives. And my dad actually had a similar conversation with me when I was in a relationship that wasn't good for me or working for me or the person for me. And he basically said the same thing. He was like, you know how you don't send your food back at a restaurant if it sucks, like, and you don't like it? Well, don't do that with your dating life, because it's such an important decision. And like, that was me to a T. I just didn't want to ruffle feathers. I was in the relationship. I didn't want to send it back, but send it back. Send the dish back. You're paying. Okay. Hi, my story was featured on your first Worth the Wait episode, and I thought a follow-up might be nice. As a recap, I met my guy in 2020 when I was 32 and he was 38. He made me a priority from the very start, so despite my history of dating emotionally unavailable guys, I knew I needed to see this through because he was someone special. We moved in together in 2022, got engaged in 2023, got married in 2024, and we are now expecting a baby girl in July of 2025. I am now 37 and he is 43. I know some of you might think 37 and 43 are ancient, but I promise you it feels like the perfect time to be married and starting a family. Being secure, established, and mature when you get together helps you maintain the person you were before the relationship. I still prioritize my career and it's thriving more than ever. I've traveled to multiple countries with my girlfriends without my partner, and I still have all my hobbies. My husband and I had a kick-ass wedding because we could afford to. We travel and go out to eat and spoil each other with gifts, and we are in a great place financially to welcome our daughter into the world. Furthermore, having a mature and reliable husband by my side through some of the most stressful times, planning a wedding, a parent battling cancer, pregnancy, and childbirth planning is invaluable. I seriously couldn't imagine going through any of this with my previous boyfriends. And one last thing. Although there are plenty successful relationships that start when partners are in their 20s, I've had multiple friends who got married in their late 20s tell me I did it right. And if they had the choice to go back and wait a while before settling down, they would. People change a lot from the 20s to the 30s and again from the 30s to the 40s. Your brain only fully develops by age 25, and I swear you will know and love yourself 10 times more by age 35. So please don't rush. You have a beautiful life to live that isn't defined by partnership. Invest in yourself, your interests, your friends, your career, your family, and you will wisely choose the right partner for you when the time is right. P.S. I'm currently writing this email from my baby moon in Maui, which is a luxury I would not have been able to afford 10 years ago. Good things truly come to those who wait. I love this. What an amazing follow-up. Okay. Hi, so I binged all of your episodes on this topic, and it is my absolute favorite thing. I have a bit of a crazy story, and I will preface all of it with this kind of love story is the exception to the rule. I actually don't want our situation to give false hope to girls who fall in love with traveling musicians who become friends with benefits first. Because let's be real, those don't usually end well. Anyway, here's our crazy story. I'm 36 years old now, and my very soon-to-be fiance just turned 37. We've been together 2 years and have known each other for about 20. We were introduced by a mutual friend when I was a freshman, 15, and he was a sophomore at 16. Our relationship was really only ever the occasional hookup when we were both single. While it was only ever sexual, I distinctly remember feeling like he was different than other teenage boys. He was kind, mature, and when he was hanging out with me, all of his attention was on me. He really made me feel like he wanted to be hanging out with me when we were together, even when he was 16, 17, 20, etc. He was a punk and in bands and well known around our local music scene. He had already started traveling for tours in late high school. Most people thought he was older than he was, me included. He was painfully cool. This occasional hang went on through high school and college. Whenever I was single, I'd go hang with him. I felt cool and I'd feel rejuvenated after. It never felt serious, even when I was that young, because it seemed so outrageously unrealistic to be more than what it was. We were so different and had very different separate lives. He never once made me feel uncomfortable, though, or anything other than great. Okay, definitely a little awkward and dorky, but that wasn't his fault. This occasional thing carried on into college, and when I'd come home from college and he'd be home from Oregon, where he moved to, we'd always get together. It was a fun night or two and a really amazing hookup. We seemed to have a mutual understanding of our agreement, even though it was never discussed. As years went on, whenever I'd go through a breakup, we'd end up meeting up. Even me traveling to Oregon one time for several days when I was in late college. And we'd have fun and hook up, and then I'd go back to regular life. I'd start dating and having flings and eventually end up in another serious relationship again. When I was about 29, I got married, and I distinctly remember half joking, half actually bummed, telling my best friend at a bar one night when I was engaged, well, there goes hooking up with Joe. I'll never get to do that again. I got married, but ended up getting a divorce within a year after. He was a sweet guy, but a little boy who needed a mommy more than a wife, not to mention he developed a drug problem. I dated around, and in the late winter of 2020, I asked Joe if he'd be in town anytime soon. You know, for my go-to get over a breakup hookup that always made me feel better. He suggested we take a trip to Palm Springs in April around his birthday. We planned the whole thing, and I was so excited. Yes, a trip was planned for April 2020. So COVID happened, and we had to cancel the trip. I started dating through the apps and met someone, and we ended up in a long-term relationship throughout COVID. After about 2 years together, he proposed. The whole time, though, I'd never fully stopped thinking about Joe. Never in a way where I thought it could be serious, though. So it never dictated my actions or feelings. My new fiance, my new fiance ended up being someone else entirely than who he'd seemed. It was extremely traumatic. He hid so many enormous things about himself and his character and his beliefs. I tried to make it work for a while, but eventually called off the engagement knowing I could never trust him. I was really messed up from it, and at this point I was 34 and thinking that I'd never be able to trust a man again. I tried dating, and a guy could tell me what he did for a living, and in my head I'd think, liar. Yeah, it was bad. So there I was, 34 and divorced with a called off engagement under my belt. I felt embarrassed and like a hot mess. After the holidays that year, I thought about Joe and figured, well, he always made me feel better. And I'm usually able to move on after seeing him. I truly felt like he had been renewing my faith in men since I was 15 years old. I hit him up and we started talking about the trip to Palm Springs that we never made it to in 2020. It was now 2023. We ended up just me going to Oregon for a few days instead. He asked me what I wanted to see and do, and I said, I don't care. I just want to be in hot water, touch some moss, and see some snow. I had been the one doing all the planning, all the thinking, all the leasing, all the emotional labor in every precious relationship for so long. I was tired. When I tell you this man planned every day to include those three things I asked for, I mean, he created the most magical, brain-changing trip for me. It wasn't too extravagant, but it was exactly what I'd asked for. I felt so heard, so focused on, and I was blown away by my desire to let him lead. I had always been with men who were boys. I had to lead, so much so that I thought that was just my personality and what I liked. At one point, we were walking through a crowd and he was in front of me and he reached back his hand to grab mine and quite literally led me through the crowd. It was a full mind, body, and soul awakening of this. This is what I want. This is what I need. However, ridiculously, I still wasn't thinking it was him specifically. I just thought he and this trip were meant to show me the type of man I wanted and that he exists in this world because if Joe can exist, someone like him can. He is a musician and a tour manager and on the road quite a bit. I thought he wasn't interested in serious relationships because I just assumed he was a wild musician guy on the road who liked to have flings where you get to be romantic and fun, but not serious or long-term. This was all completely just a judgment I had made back when we were teens. I left that trip feeling rejuvenated and like maybe I could trust again that I'd find my person. Here's a really wild part. In March of 2023, about 2 months after that trip, I had a palm reader come to my house and do readings for a girls' night. The palm reader wasn't giving much, and I was kind of bummed and feeling like I didn't get much out of it. Before my turn was over, I asked him specifically about my future love life. He said he saw my next partner on the water and that he was really into boats, but not a sailor and not a fisherman. I asked if he saw a hair color and he said he didn't, maybe light brown, but he wasn't seeing anything clearly. I walked away from that thinking, what? Into boats? I don't live anywhere near boats, nor do I know anyone with a boat. What bullshit. Ugh, whatever. About a month later, I'm talking to my friend about Joe and she asks where he lives. I start to explain to her he lives on a river in Oregon in a floating home and has a boat that pulls into the house's garage like a car, and how cool that is. She freaks out and is like, girl, he lives on the water and has a boat? I couldn't believe it. I had never made that connection. We were freaking out. Also, he's bald. Before he lost his hair, it was a light brown. To this day, I can't believe any of that happened. Also, he doesn't sail or fish. None of my friends knew he lived on the water, much less this random palm reader. I myself didn't even think about him or make the connection. The next month in April, he came to visit for a few days for his birthday. I knew he was an Aries and she was a Libra. This is so weird. I literally knew that as soon as she said his birthday was in April. He's an Aries and I'm an October Libra. And we spent the weekend together. He then left for a trip to the Amazon, so he didn't have much service because they were on a boat that went along the river for over a week. One day I got home and checked the mail, and this man had mailed me a postcard from the Amazon. Definition of if he wanted to, he would. I screamed and was immediately sweating. I spent weeks panicking, wondering if this was just a continuation of him being a really nice guy or an indication of more. If it was something more, was I willing to risk losing my 20-year-long friend with benefits, sweet, kind, fun friend who got me through every breakup since I was a teen? What if I was reading it wrong? He lives in another state. I kept thinking of that line from Trainwreck where she says, you don't marry the best sex of your life guy. The best sex of your life guy is in prison, which I fully agreed with. The sex was too good for this to be more than friends with benefits. Oh my God, this is so long, but I'm sorry. I love it. Okay. I'll try to summarize a little bit. The end of May rolled around. He was leaving for a tour in June. And she reached out and very casually asked if there was the possibility of more between us worth exploring. He responded with a clear yes. We talked about what that looked like and how we could explore it after our tour. The rest of it can be summed up by saying we were in a long distance relationship for 18 months and ultimately decided he'd move back home where I live. And they've been living together since November 2024 and are getting engaged next month. She went from thinking, I'll just say it in her tone, I went from thinking I'd never trust a man again to being with the safest, most thoughtful, kind man who leads me and us with such love and strength and naturalness. Oh, I love this so much. Her last paragraph says, I've learned the long and hard way that what's meant for you won't miss you, and what misses you wasn't meant for you. Do the hard thing, leave the relationship that you know isn't right, leave the toxic job, move states, whatever it is, the universe will reward you. I love that. Holy shit. What a story to tell the kids. Wow. All right, we got to keep it moving here because, okay, this is a shorter one. As I was nearing the end of my 35th year, I had pretty much resolved myself to the fact that possibly a marriage and children was not in the future for me. The fact that I even was still casually swiping on apps still surprises me. I met my now boyfriend definitely on a whim. I honestly had to convince myself to get out of my comfort zone and go on the second date, which I'm so glad I did. He's everything I ever wanted and more, and I am so grateful to have found him. So if you're still out there looking, even though we all love our routines, sometimes stepping out of your comfort zone can change your life. Also, if anyone is religious, there is a prayer that I came across shortly before meeting him that I think also helped. I'm happy to share it. So share it, girl. P.S. A great place to meet cute guys is at Grateful Dead cover band concerts. It seems to be the new trend, especially for guys in their mid to late 30s. Okay, I love that. Wait, I feel like Andy Cohen goes to those. Okay. Hi, love you, love the show, love this series. It gave me so much hope during the thick of my single times. My story is super cute if I do say so myself. I have known my boyfriend since we were both 8 years old. His family moved to my home. So many invisible strings, by the way. His family moved to my hometown, North Palm Beach, Florida, from Europe and joined my swim team, which my mom was the coach of. His mom was a single mom and the coolest, most chic woman you can imagine. She worked her butt off and often had to be out of town because of her job. My mom befriended her and they became close friends. There was even an instance where his mom was out of town and my now boyfriend bonked his head at the bottom of the pool and had to be taken to the ER. My mom and I took him and stayed with him until his mom got home. Unfortunately, when we were 13 and 12, my mom passed away unexpectedly. My dad then became a single dad and the tables turned in the sense that his mom was now doing the mama bearing for me. I don't know why I'm like crying. She would have me over for girls' nights and let me rummage through her closet. This is so sweet. I loved those times with her. As we got a little older, my boyfriend and I remained close friends. He would come over to my house after practice every day and hang out. We were truly friends in the most innocent, most genuine way possible. As adults, we saw each other through many boyfriends and girlfriends and always remained in contact, seeing each other a couple times a year. I eventually moved to Hawaii and then California and was away from our hometown for 8 years. We kept in touch and even made one of those silly pacts that if we were both single at 30, we'd marry each other. We both were never single at the same time. I was actually single for 6 years while living in California. In the fall of 2023, I made the decision to move back to my hometown to be closer to my dad. He then became single winter of that same year. We chatted a bit, but never discussed us being together if I moved home. Summer of 2024, I made the cross-country trip back home. We hung out here and there, but it didn't seem like anything was moving forward. Well, come October, he confessed his love for me, and we've been together ever since. We just moved in together this April and are so happy. It is so fun already knowing so much about each other, but learning new things about each other in this dynamic too. Our parents and family and friends are so thrilled about it too. We know each other in the worst, best ways possible. He is 35 and I, a fellow Libra, will be 35 this October. I wonder what his sign is. If you had asked me a year or two ago if this is where I'd be and who I'd be with, I would have never guessed it, but things work out in the craziest ways. We often talk about how long it took us to figure it out, but the truth is I'm grateful I had all the experiences I had because it made it so much better. I can't wait to tell my kids about the places I got to live and the experiences I had that helped me be ready for him and it all. We are so happy and I pinch myself that I'm with my childhood bestie. I attached pictures of us throughout the years, including one of us back at the pool. We spent so much time together as kids. Also pics of me and his mom, and so special, a picture of him and my mom. Oh my God, I'm crying. Okay. I'm going to show you the pictures. Hold on. Let's hope my service is good enough. This is so sweet. Okay, this is them when they're young. Can you see? Wait, I zoomed too much. Okay. So cute. them in the pool. Oh my God. You guys look so cute together. And this is the chic mama. And the other two aren't downloading. So I'm going to have to look at them later on my computer. But this is the most amazing story. And I have the chills and I cried. Okay. We've got a few more to get through. So we got to get into this. Okay. I've always loved these episodes. They gave me hope I'd have a story to share someday too. And now I do. I'm turning 37 soon. I built a career I enjoy. I'm surrounded by great friends who always ask, how are you still single? And yet romantic love has always felt just out of reach. I've had relationships, but I was always the one who got to love while they stayed unsure. Looking back, I see how much I overgave to prove my worth because I just wanted it so badly. Heading into 2025, I was prepared for a big year. Right away, I was freezing my eggs. Then I was having hip surgery with a tough recovery. I did both back to back, and just 2 weeks after returning to work, I was laid off. It felt like everything was unraveling until something unexpected happened. 1 week before the layoff, I matched with a guy on Bumble. He had these incredible blue-green eyes, and I literally froze. I was out of likes, so I used one of the comment features in an attempt to match. We started chatting right away, but hours later, I noticed he was no longer in my city. Turns out he had just been on a layover at LAX and downloaded Bumble to pass the time at the airport. But somehow, during this 2-hour time period, we matched. We kept talking, the banter was effortless, and both of us felt a connection even through the phone. We moved from text to phone calls to FaceTime, and within a week, he booked a flight back to see me. He got a hotel and was a total gentleman, as he should, ladies. When we met in person, it was truly electric, like something in both of us lit up. Since then, I visited him, and then on our third weekend together, we became official. Wow, love that timeline. He's thoughtful, funny, emotionally in tune, and the most handsome. He told me recently, it's like I manifested you. I melted. I've never felt so mutually chosen. We're both Cancers, and it shows. We feel deeply, communicate easily, and just feel like we complete each other. Don't worry, I'm a Capricorn moon to balance things out. I love that, queen. Same. Also a Capricorn moon. And yes, we're doing long distance for now, but the connection is only growing stronger. For the first time, I'm in a relationship where I'm not trying to prove myself and my anxious attachment is at ease. I feel like I'm finally getting what I've always wanted. I used to hear phrases like, it's either them or someone better, or if you can love the wrong person that much, imagine how you can love the right person. And I think I get it now. Oh, look at them. They're gorgeous. They really look like two Cancers. Beautiful. Love that. Okay. Whew, need another sip. This is the story of me, 34-year-old female, and my husband, 33-year-old male. When I met my now husband, I had just about given up on love. I was 32 and had been on the apps for 8+ years. I moved to a big city in the Midwest, summer 2022, from my hometown in hopes that I would have more luck. 2023 started out in the worst of ways. I got broken up with on New Year's Day. At this point, 7.5 years into swiping on the apps, my internal monologue was, you're too fat, you're too much, you're too anxious, no one will ever love you. Still, I went on dates, put on a happy face, and hoped for the best while crying my eyes out periodically, despondent that no one was out there for me. Mid-September 23, I was doing a usual Bumble swipe. I came across E, who looked promising, but he had the same name as my own dad. So I quickly swiped left, which, by the way, that's not a deal breaker because you call your dad dad, not their name. Then I stopped. One of my childhood friends is married to a guy with her dad's name. Okay, there we go. So what's the harm in just swiping right? I quickly matched with him, and we chatted. I quickly pulled my usual excuse of, I can't get on Bumble at work. Can we exchange phone numbers? True story. Our first date was good. I enjoyed talking to Ian. We had good chemistry. I quickly realized how nice he was to me, and honestly, it was terrifying. I thought to myself, there has to be something wrong with him. I had grown so accustomed to mean guys that I was scared of something good. But there was something about E that made me think I needed to push past my anxiety. Everything happened pretty quickly after that. We were dating 2 weeks later and engaged 7 months after that. I always thought when I met the one, we would live together happily after immediately. What I learned was I really had to fight my internal demons to let E love me. But damn, I'm so glad that I did. I've never known a love like this, one where I can be completely myself. I don't have to pretend. He sees and loves my curves. He loves that I make more money than him and is constantly telling me I'm the best in my field. He is smart and talented himself. Did I mention that I love his family too? I hope people who hear this story know that there is an E out there for them too. Looking back, the only thing I would change about this journey is the negative self-talk and the constant dread of dying alone. If I knew E was waiting for me at the end of the finish line, I would have enjoyed running the marathon much more. Love. I think she's okay with me saying her name, Rachel. Here's a picture of me smitten as E serenaded with me with the saxophone at our wedding 2 months ago. Oh my God. Wait, can you see? He's a sax player. Okay. Come through, E. All right. We have 5 more. Let's see if we can get through them. In 2022, I ended a 3-year relationship with an ex I lived with. I was 29, feeling defeated and pretty terrified to start over. Most of my friends were getting married, having kids, and settling down, but I knew deep down that my ex and I wanted different things out of life, and staying would have meant slowly losing myself. So I left. I moved back to my hometown in San Diego. I got an apartment on my own. What followed was the most transformative, painful, and ultimately freeing years of my life. I was grieving more than just the end of a relationship. In addition to the breakup, I also got laid off from my job and had 3 family members pass away within weeks of each other. I started to go to therapy and work hard to heal myself leading up to my 30th birthday. That's when I found We Met at Acme. I initially got hooked on the IG story polls, but it was actually Lindsay's podcast that helped me set new standards and boundaries I had never had before. I took the advice seriously, especially when it came to dating with intention. Eventually, after more growth than I thought possible, I got back on Hinge, kissed a few frogs, deleted it, re-downloaded it, deleted it again, reconsidered old situationships, failed miserably, of course. You know the cycle. But in January of 2024, one of Lindsay's Instagram polls convinced me to try Hinge one more time. Oh my God, I love that. That's when I came across Ryan's profile. He was the hottest guy I've ever seen. I made the first move by liking one of his photos, panicked, and threw my phone onto the couch. The next day, he matched me back and messaged me, "Hey, Jesse, your prompts and photos are spot on. I don't even know where to begin." And we were off to the races. We chatted for a few days before he asked for my number. He was upfront right away by telling me he had just gotten back from deployment, he's Air Force, and was temporarily staying up north, but he'd accepted a new job that would bring him back to San Diego in 2 months. At first, I was hesitant. I hadn't even met him yet, and I was already starting to get excited. But 2 months felt long to invest in from afar, especially someone I'd never met in person. Then came the FaceTimes, the long heartfelt texts, the calls, and even a few video diaries, which were 10-minute videos he'd send me from his hotel room while filming a Leonardo DiCaprio movie. He was cast as a primary extra in one coming out this September. We started sending those back and forth, calling them our modern day love letters. It was effortless and intentional from day one. The difference with Ryan was clear. He showed up. No games, no need to question where his head was at. He pursued me with genuine, consistent interest, and I knew where I stood with him. It felt safe, exciting, and real. When we finally met in person, I was so nervous. What if his feet were weird? What if he smelled bad? All things I couldn't possibly know through a FaceTime. But as soon as we met, it wasn't even a question. A few months into our relationship, I unexpectedly found out I had to freeze my eggs. It wasn't something I anticipated, but some tests revealed some shocking numbers that made my heart sink. It was emotional and scary, but Ryan stood by me every step of the way despite being a new boyfriend. He learned to give the injections, wiped my tears, and made a hard process feel safe and sacred. Sobbing. He showed me the depth of his love, not just through words, but action. Even though it was an emotional time, it's now a favorite memory because it wasn't public or flashy. It was quiet, unwavering care. That's when I knew I'd found my forever guy. He proposed just over a year after dating, and now we're planning our wedding, potentially in Ireland where his family is from and where he lived as a kid, praying our children have accents. I'm 31, he's 33, and I couldn't have dreamt up a better relationship. People always say love finds you when you least expect it, but I think love finds you when you're ready to finally receive it. After everything I went through, I can honestly say the best relationships do come to those who wait, and the wait was so worth it. Look at these pictures. So cute. Obsessed. You guys are gorgeous. Okay, let's see if we can get through these. Okay. This might have to be longer than an hour, but hopefully that's okay. Hi, Lindsay. I just wanted to share my story for your Great Love is Worth Waiting For series. I was married in my mid-20s and went through years and years of infertility treatment to bring my beautiful twins into the world. But as I became a mother, my husband slipped deeper and deeper into alcoholism, ultimately becoming someone I no longer recognized. I spent years trying to support him, but none of it made a difference. though that's a story for another time. It wasn't safe emotionally or physically for me or my children. So at 36, I started over, just the three of us. For a while, I focused on healing and rediscovering who I was. I started dating again, but this time just for fun. And honestly, I wasn't sure if I'd ever find lasting love again. My love life became entertainment among my friends, married and single alike. And for a while, it was a wonderful and validating distraction. Over time, though, I began to long for something real again, but I was also a career-driven single mom with sole custody of two amazing small kiddos. That's a reality many can't handle. After a while, I made peace with the idea that the dream of having a complete family might never happen for me. And then I met Doug. We connected on Bumble. Why am I crying so much this episode? Definitely because I'm pregnant. We connected on Bumble and the spark was immediate. We texted, talked, and went on dates that felt easy, intentional, and safe. Anytime anxiety crept in, I'd quiet my mind and focus on how I felt when I was with him. And I always felt like me. And eventually I felt at home. Within 9 months, we were engaged. In the summer, we'll tie the knot and bring our combined family together just a few months shy of my 40th birthday. So for anyone out there afraid to start over or worried they're behind, I hope my story reminds them that life continues and that love, a sweet and steady love, can find them. P.S. I wanted to share that I discovered your podcast during this 4-year journey and it helped me along the way. So thank you. That makes me so happy. Okay, let's see how long these last ones are before I start reading them. Okay, I think we can get through them. I will try to read quickly. Hi, Lindsay. A year ago, I moved to the suburbs of Philadelphia after spending almost 10 years post-college in the city. During my time dating in Philly, I certainly experienced plenty of ups and downs and felt like I never was enough for any of the people I met. And more importantly, they were never enough for me. I was just beginning my 30s and felt like everyone else was finding their person except for me. I celebrated many of my friends' weddings solo, and I would often find myself longing for the day that I'd have my forever plus one. Fast forward to July of last year. As I got used to suburb life, I started going on daily walks, listening to We Met at Acme, and doing the work to figure out what I could be doing better in my dating life. One of the first few episodes I listened to was the original Best Relationships, and I was so inspired by the stories that I heard that I started believing maybe one day I would have one to share myself. Soon after, I started talking with a guy on Bumble who shared a love of Philly sports and coaching basketball with me. It almost felt too good to be true, but as we planned our first date, I told myself to keep my expectations low and just enjoy it. When that first date came, the time passed so fast as we continued to learn more and more things we had in common. By the time we were leaving, he was very clear with me that he wanted to see me again, which was reassurance that I often didn't get in the past. I loved how direct he was and just felt like I could trust him. Although I felt early on like there were so many things we could connect on, I still felt that there was so much more to learn before I could really tell if he was my person. But I had a really good feeling. As the weeks progressed, we spent more and more time together, introduced friends and family, and I truly saw what an amazing man I had right in front of me. This guy was everything I never knew I needed. I can be very emotional at times, especially considering I had been hurt so many times in the past. And trusting was not always easy for me, but he handles every conversation or question with a calm patience that feels like something I have always been waiting for. Over the past 10 months, we continued to grow together and learn all there is to know about each other as we plan our future. We are currently in the process of finding a house, and if all goes well, we'll be moving in together late this summer. It is crazy to think that less than a year ago, I was a single 30-year-old going on walks, wondering if I'd ever get my chance at a happily ever after, and today I'm living it. The best relationships really do come to those who wait. I love that. Wolf, is it okay if we go like 5 over?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. Hey, Linz, longtime follower from New Zealand. Thank you so much for everything you put out there for us. After breaking up with a long-term boyfriend at 25, I spent the last 5 years on all the apps, with nothing working out longer than a month. I felt like I'd never find my person and was coming to terms with the possibility of being on my own forever. I decided to delete the apps because I was getting disheartened and made a new group of friends and got invited to a run club one night. I was purely in the mindset of making new friends, so walked up to a guy who came on his own and introduced myself. We immediately hit it off and ended up going for a drink after the run. He asked for my number and we went on a proper date the following weekend. Since then, we found so much in common. I feel more safe and loved for who I am than in any past relationship. And I finally understand what people mean when they say they found their best friend. It's only been 9 months, but we're already talking about rings, future family plans, and possibly moving to a new city for my career. Something which has threatened so many men in the past. I'm so grateful that I have your advice, didn't settle, and decided to get out there and live my best life. It really does happen when you least expect it. I love that. I also love the idea. So from the last two, this one about going up to people for friendship, because if you're thinking of, oh, I want to make new friends, I want this guy who came alone to feel welcome, I want, that's a different energy than what if that guy's my husband? And I think also with the person before this, telling yourself like, this guy's great, but I still need to get to know him, instead of putting them on a pedestal right away. Dear Lindsay, the best relationships, okay, this is the last one. Come to Those Who Wait episodes gave me so much hope, and it feels surreal to say I've joined this club. Last summer at 31, I'd never been in a relationship before, despite going on plenty of dates and finding myself hung up on a few boys who, in retrospect, obviously did not like me back. I listened to all of the dating podcasts and read all of the advice and was following most of the rules, but didn't seem to have such luck finding the right guy for me. I matched with Kyle on Hinge in August, and we went on our first date a week later. He was tall, handsome, polite, punctual, and paid for the date. Then texted me after saying he'd love to see me again. He did everything right, and I followed the rules, letting him lead and protecting my boundaries in the beginning of us getting to know each other. I had my guard up in the beginning, but with each date, I could feel my attraction for him growing, and experiencing the way he treated me made me fall for him. He is patient, kind, respectful, goofy, hardworking, and loves his family and friends fiercely. We share so many common interests, but what I love most about him is how safe I feel with him. I never had to guess when he would call or if he wanted to see me. He always made it clear. In October, he asked me to be his girlfriend and we made it official. And in January, he said, I love you for the first time. And I couldn't wait to say it back. Everything with Kyle feels easy and fun and like I don't want it to end. We've started talking about our future together, where we'll live, travel, what kind of dog we'll get, etc. And each milestone feels like a natural next step. It feels amazing to be cared for the way Kyle cares for me, and I'm so excited for our future together. My story is proof that the right match can be just a swipe away, that it's worth putting yourself out there and being patient for the right person to come along. Thank you for sharing these stories and for giving women in their 30s and beyond hope that their person is out there and is worth waiting for. It's true that the best relationships come to those who wait. On that note, I love you guys. Thank you for listening. That was an amazing part 4. And stay tuned for part 5.